Dr. Alan Lycka here, and I'd like to welcome you to How to Live a Fantastic Life show, where we will be discussing the important aspects of your life. We hope to inspire you to live the best life you can. Get out of your comfort zone and explore the awesome world around you. Break through your barriers. Take inspired action. Use the difficulties in your life to achieve the best version of you. Ladies and gentlemen, today you are in for a very special guest. I met Jay because of a mutual friend on the Speakers Lab. And Jay is a very special individual. He is a successful leadership development coordinator in the banking industry. Jay has trained and coached people and teams to help bridge the gap between beliefs and behaviors. Now, he comes certified. He is a Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach, a certified Grow Big at Business Development Facilitator, and a 7 Habits Facilitator. Now, he speaks to groups, real estate agencies, small businesses, financial institutions, and nonprofits about discovering their purpose and creating a culture based on their values. Now, he is a religious man. He's been in the ministry for 30 years, and he's worked with teenagers, community leaders, and foreign missions worldwide. Welcome, Jay Thompson.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. I'm going to have to pack you up and take you with me everywhere I go, because that was an incredible introduction. You made me sound a whole lot better than I really am. And so if nothing else, I'm going to record that and put that on my website going, who is Jay? Well, listen to Dr. Allen talk about who he is. So I appreciate
it comes as a bit of a knack. I usually take stuff and distill it and make it better. And the good thing is, all of this is absolutely true, ladies and gentlemen. You know, when people introduce me, I always say, that was a great eulogy. The rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Because it always sounds better than, I've always said, no, I'm not that person. They're speaking about my eulogy, but that's what it's all about. Jay, can you tell me how you got to where you are? Tell me a little bit of your background. Now, I made it sound like it was easy you got to where it are, but you and I know that to get to where you are, you've had to climb several mountains of adversity. So let's go through some of that mountain climbing.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I guess where my journey started and kind of who I am as a person really revolved around me was my family. For me, I consider myself very blessed with the mom and dad that I have. I had an opportunity to grow up with an incredible brother as well. And like most of my friends, I was very, very different because my mom and dad married my entire life. 3 years ago, my mom passed away, and my mom and dad were married my entire life. My grandparents, both sets of grandparents, have never gone through divorce or anything like that. And so much influence in my life has come from the men and women who have been in my family and have been incredible mentors for me. Does that mean everything was easy? Does that mean that life was just sailed by? Absolutely not. As my grandfather would say, there were many times that my mom and dad had to jerk a knot in my tail because I had made poor decisions, and I had had the opportunity to reap the consequences of some of those poor decisions in my life. But I did have people that loved me regardless and always wanted the best for me, and it pushed me that way. And so for me, growing up, it was an incredible experience. I had a mom who helped me stay grounded. I had a dad that helped me to understand that no task is too difficult when it comes to life. And so I see with my mom and dad kind of a 1-2 punch of discipline and dreamer put together. And so they had an incredible influence on me. growing up for me, sports was huge. I loved to play baseball and football. I played other sports, but I played organized baseball and football. And I loved both of those, played them all the way through high school. Had a pitching scholarship to go to college out of high school. I was in the top 10 in the county that I played in Georgia, in Cobb County, in pitching and in hitting. And I was going to go play at Georgia State University. Signed my scholarship with them, had everything paid for except for my food for 4 years. And 2 weeks after I signed, administration voted to drop the baseball program because they said it wasn't financially competitive. Devastating for me because my dream was to play Major League Baseball. And so that was one of those adverse things that I kind of went through to kind of
now let's put a spotlight on that. Yeah, that really crippled you at the time. But really, looking back at it, wasn't that one of the things that caused you to pivot into something better and greater?
Yeah, that's a good word, pivot. In the moment, that was not the word that I wanted to use. I wanted to use some other words that to describe that situation. But when it happened, it really did shut a door for me in my life of something that I want to pursue. But it opened up an incredible door, really two doors for me. And that was my other passion besides baseball was landscaping. And so I've had a landscape business my whole life. I can't remember not mowing grass and picking up pine cones and blowing leaves and doing all of that. Even my uncle, as I was in high school, invested in me and saw potential there and bought me a trailer and all the landscape equipment to go and build a business. And so I pursued that. As the baseball career shut down, I was able to pursue that with a landscape architecture degree at Auburn University. And so that was one door that opened, and also the door of ministry opened for me to be able to.
Well, this is what I want to emphasize. You know, when one door closes, the other always opens. You just have to keep your eyes open to see those doors. Sometimes they're not evident. Sometimes they just aren't right there. But, you know, the thing is, those doors are always ready. And sometimes you got to develop a door. Sometimes you have to develop another path. But they're there if you let them be.
Yeah, I think the challenge there is not to kick doors open, but wait for them to begin to open and step through those. My grandfather, you'll hear me quote my grandparents often. Both my grandfathers, Papa and JT, were instrumental in my life. And my grandfather, Papa, sitting on the front porch, oftentimes we have these deep conversations. And Papa always told me, he would say, Jay, you cannot unplow a row. And what the meaning of that is, if I step into something too quick, it may not be right. It may not be the right time, the right situation. I may not be ready for it. And for me in my life, I've had to slow down, quote unquote, plow and row sometime to wait for the doors to reveal themselves for me to step through, for sure.
Yeah, that's really important. And you got to, well, you said another thing that's brilliant. And I've always said this when I was a cosmetic doctor, is that, you know, how do people look so good? And I said, well, choose your parents wisely. and they laugh at me. And I said, yeah, that's how you look good. Choose your parents wisely. You think these actors and actresses look so good just because they look good? No, they had good genetic material. And if you are in a family, listen to your family. They have wisdom that you'll never be able to get. You know, my mother's family emigrated from the Ukraine at the turn of the century. They were sod busters in Saskatchewan. Can you picture coming halfway around the world to work in some fields without any cattle, without anything, and just making it happen? My God, living in a sod hut for decades before you could afford to put up a house? Wow, there is wisdom and stamina that I only can shake at. I mean, wow, there's so much there. My father came over from what was known as Czechoslovakia. It's now known as Czechia, which has gone through. So, and, he came over at the age of 9, leading his brother and sister, who were 5 and 7, across the world. He didn't speak a lick of English. His father was already settled in Alberta, so he had to leave them. Why? He was the oldest child. Can you picture those things? All I can say is the things I've accomplished are only small compared to what my parents and grandparents did.
Yeah, well, and I think the challenge is this. I want my kids, my grandkids, and my great-grandkids to say the exact same thing about me that you just said about your family legacy. Because here's the deal. I may not be busting up sod and living in a sod hut. I may not be moving from one country to another, but I am living the life that I've been given right now. And I need to make sure I cut the sod that needs to be cut and travel the opportunities that I need to travel, step through the doors that I need to, because I think we underestimate the impact that our willingness to step into opportunities today, the impact that has on our legacy moving forward.
Exactly. And one of the things you do that's unique is you're deeply into hiking. And you've walked many miles on the Appalachian Trail. Mm-hmm. And you've taken videos of yourself, and you do a video while you're walking every day, getting in those steps every day. And why don't you tell others about the importance of this and the importance of this in your life?
Yeah, for me, I'm 54 years old now. When I turned 40, I am ultimately in my life, I'm driven by I have to have a goal of something big in my life that I'm shooting for. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what keeps me going. And so from a physical standpoint, I set a goal when I was 40 that I wanted to hike the entire Appalachian Trail before I turned 50. And so I started out, it was the hottest day in July back in 2008. I'm on the Appalachian Trail, a place called Dix Creek Gap. I'm about just under 70 miles back from Springer Mountain, where the Appalachian Trail starts. And I was going to hike back to the start. My goal was to do that. I was there on my 40th birthday. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get after it. I had done a lot of prep when it came to all of the getting ready, but I did not check all the weather. And so it was an incredible drought. It was tough to get water and all that kind of stuff. And so my 60, 70 mile hike turned into about a 20, 25 miler. And I had to my wife had to come pick me up because there was just no water out there. And so, that day that I started created in me a hunger to pursue something. And so I'm 54. I haven't totally completed. I've done 1,700 plus miles. We just are finishing up Vermont right now, me and my hiking buddy, Greg. And I didn't finish before I'm 50, but I'm going to finish. And so I'm excited about that. And it's so important to me because there's a lot of things that when you pursue a goal for a long term, there are things you learn every step of the way. I say that on a lot of those little videos that I make, is that the way you hike the mountains, you do it one step at a time. And I think too often we expect to set a goal, accomplish a goal immediately and do something else. And so I love it. I love being outside. I've always been adventurous when it comes to that. I love the not knowing exactly what's around the next corner, or over the next mountain, or down in the next valley, and just being out there where the only thing you've got is what you're carrying on your back. And there's just a challenge of being able to live that way for a couple of weeks when I'm out there hiking.
Exactly. I love your analogy about taking life one step at a time. In fact, many times you have to take baby steps to get to where you're going. But those baby steps become giant steps when you let them. And it's amazing how in life, small hinges swing big doors. Think about that. Those tiny hinges swing those big doors. Without those small hinges, you would never get that big door open. Can you elaborate on that, sir?
Yeah, I think for me is that just take last year when we were out on the Appalachian Trail. I think of a moment for me was kind of an aha moment that I learned, and I have now translated this learning for myself into when I do business consulting with banks or different folks like that I work with on kind of helping to create the culture that they desire. So I'm out, it's super wet up in the mountains, and I'm walking all day long, and the little hinge that I learned, I guess, would be this. When you're walking on the Appalachian Trail, sometimes the whole path is nothing but a gigantic mud bog. And so what do? First of all, you're like, those are not easy steps. I mean, because I've stepped in some of those and I've covered my foot, and there's some of those I've gone up to my knee. I mean, they can be deep, and those are difficult steps. So I'm always looking for a way around that, if possible, to see if there's some more sure footing other places. Half of the day when I was hiking, I could find another way around the mud puddle. Sometimes I just had to walk through it. And so what does that mean? What is a little learning of that is that in life, wisdom comes from knowing which mud puddles to walk around and which ones you have to go through. And that sometimes the only way forward is you just got to get there and get your feet dirty, and you got to put in the difficult, hard work. Sometimes it's realizing I see the depth of other people's difficult steps in front of me, but I see a better way around it. So I walk around when I can instead of having to walk through, because I have gauged what those other steps before me are. And so I think that translate that from myself, that little nugget, if you will. How do I swing that small hinge to swing a door of opportunity? And what I do in other people's lives is I talk about that wisdom of discernment when it comes to the choices that you make personally and professionally in your organization.
Yeah, I've always found if there's an obstacle, you have a couple of choices. One is you can go over it. Second one, you can go through it. A third one, you can go under it. Fourth one, you can go around it. But you have no option but to get to the other side. And so you have to push yourself. And if you don't push yourself, you're not going to get to the other side. And that's where it takes intestinal fortitude. And that's where it takes it happen. If you don't make it happen, you're not going to get to that other side. Now, that's stupid. You need to move forward. Remember, that's something you absolutely must do.
Very true. And I think it's the only other option that you have is to sit there and just dwell on an impossible obstacle that you think's in front of you, and nobody makes any progress when you do that. And so, I mean, I've just had an opportunity. For me, hiking is for me one of those things that I go out and I do because I find that it gives me a chance to clear my head. It gives me a chance to enjoy nature. And it gives me a chance that, here's the thing, often in life, we don't always get to see the progress that we're making. You know, as you're working on a project or you're in a relationship or you're trying to learn a new skill, sometimes we don't always see the progress. What I love about hiking is at the end of the day, I can look back and go, that was 17 miles that I accomplished today. And I can think back to every one of those steps to be able to do that. And there's just something powerful about getting out and kind of seeing visually, in reality, seeing progress made. There's something encouraging about that.
Yeah. And at the same time, I think we've got to do this all with a sense of humor. If we don't do it with a sense of humor, I think we're going to have a problem. And we got to do it with a sense of enthusiasm and tenacity and positivity, because those are the things that take you over those road bumps, and they just become road bumps. If you look at every bump as a mountain, you're going to probably not get it done. But if you look at it as just a little obstacle, a little thing along the way, you will. And I never lose. I either win or I learn something. That is the way to become a wonderful, amazing person and to have a fantastic life.
Yeah, very true with that. I think mindset plays so much into where we're able to go in our life from a success standpoint. One of the things I talk about is there's in our life, there's things that we need to give up. And I think one of the things that holds so many people and organizations back is they have a story that they're repeating in their own mind about themselves or their organization over and over and over. And it's really not a good story. It's not a hero story. It's a tragic story. And because they're like, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't. And that's their story. And oftentimes that's the thing we've got to be able to give up is that, I'm going to use your words, non-fantastic mindset. And we have to flip on that fantastic mindset of going, this is not happening to me, good or bad. This is happening for me. That's that little preposition change makes all the difference, I think, when it comes to our mindset of moving forward over those obstacles that we face.
It's amazing how little things can make all the difference. And you can make the difference. I've said there's two things that are important. It's not what happens to you. It's what you do with what happens. And the second thing is your perception of what happens is equally important. So don't let that jaded perception you have affect the reality that's there.
Yeah. Why do we do that? Why do we let that negative thing hold us back? Why do we allow that viewpoint, or that mindset to hold us back? And I think it's because we get in this trap and this cycle of looking at things that it's going to be more negative. Just looking at things and seeing the impossible things or the things that we haven't been able to do in the past, and we project that moving forward. I'm a firm believer in all you got to do is tell me one time I can't do something, and you have just thrown the gauntlet down. I'm like, well, I am going to absolutely prove you wrong. I'm not only going to do it, I'm going to do it better than anybody else has ever done it. Now, do I always accomplish that? No. I'm not arrogant enough to think I'm the best out there, but here's what I know. I can only do my best. And we another thing that in my spare time, my son-in-law and I coach a travel girl softball team of high school girls. And we just had our spring training with them. And we talked about there's two words, the word effort, right? And results. Only one of those words can be perfect. We can't always have perfect results, but we can give perfect effort every time. We talked about those two words. Only one of those is in our control. The results are not in our control. Our effort is. And so that's what we're instilling in those young ladies right now, is that we're not asking for perfect performance or results. We're just simply asking for perfect effort at practice, in the games, and in their lives. And oftentimes, this is people that put in the perfect effort see pretty stinking incredible results.
I love that, Jay. Jay, we're almost at the end of our time together. Can you tell our listeners how they can find out more about you and your world?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the opportunity to let me just connect with you again today. For me, if you want to get in touch with me and find out who I am and how I leverage the thought of hiking the mountain when it comes to organizations, to corporations, to banks, to individuals, simplest way is just my email. It's jay@hikethemountain.org. That's just all one word, Hike the Mountain. You can shoot me an email, or you can go to my website at hikethemountain.org. I think on the there'll be some links, I think, added to this show today as well. Some of those, if you want to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. But if you shoot me an email, I'll be more than happy to share my phone number with you. We'll get on the phone and talk and that kind of stuff. But that's the best way to get in touch with me if you want to find out a little bit more about who I am and what I do and all that kind of stuff. I mean, how many times have you ever asked that question, right? What do you do for a living? And I think that question is something, the way I would answer that is organizationally, I help get the values that are on a poster lived out in the hallways of the organization. And by that, as you mentioned earlier, bridging the gap between, which I think is the greatest gap in all organizations, is what we say we believe and how we behave. And I think that is what real culture is the smaller the gap, the greater the culture.
Jay, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation today. I knew this was going to be startling when we had our pre-call not too long ago. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. It is an honor, Dr. Leica, to be on the call with you. And I've listened to multiple episodes. When I go walking, my goal is 15,000 steps a day. This month, I'm a little under that. I'm at 14,000 something. But when I go out and I go walk, I listen to podcasts, and you're on my top 10 list of things that I listen to. And I enjoy what you share. You have incredible guests, and I always listen, and I'm able to walk away, no pun intended, with something pretty fantastic that I can apply to my own life.
Jay, I'm flattered. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're not happy, if your life is not perfect, go to my website, Dr. Ellen Leica, and sign up for a Golden Pearl each and every week, because there you will get some amazing advice that will change your life if you let it. For example, the Golden Pearl this week is Winston Churchill. We make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give. Think about that and give something today that you wouldn't otherwise have. Bye for now and have a fantastic day.
You've been listening to How to Live a Fantastic Life. Be sure and pick up a copy of Dr. Leica's book, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, on Amazon.com. And you'll want to subscribe right here on this page so you don't miss a single episode. Have a fantastic day.